Happy Taco Tuesday, Scott. How are you?
Tacos sound delicious right now. You're putting ideas in my head. How are you, Robin?
I'm doing well. Though you're in New Mexico right now, joining us live from New Mexico tonight. So, I guess I should say red or green on your tacos.
Yeah, I think we're probably green tonight. I think I'm feeling that.
All right, cool. I had my taco fix at lunch today, so ready to kick off tonight's episode. We have some fabulous guests with us tonight, and so how have you been? How are things? Tell everybody, what are you doing in New Mexico right now anyway?
Yeah, so on the road again. We were just saying kind of before the show, really nice to be out and traveling again. So on the ground working for NCCE, working with Gallup McKinley schools out here. So just feels great to be back on campus, working with teachers and kind of getting them to blend what we're talking about tonight, right? Bringing the world of virtual school and online learning back into face-to-face and kind of figuring out what this blended learning looks like. So it's been fitting to see it on the ground this week. And I know I'm looking forward to hearing from Diana and Becky tonight in terms of, what they think and what they've seen and where we're going to see it moving forward. But again, good to be back with teachers again and back training.
Well, I can't wait to learn more from you and our guest tonight. Fabulous things. But before we bring on our guest, we wanted to kick off our show just with a new little segment called, Epic Stuff We've Seen.
Absolutely.
People are out there sharing all the greatness and all the lessons learned that they've had, and they're applying into their schools and their classrooms. And so just want to share some of the awesome things out there that we've recently seen pop up online. So over to you to share the first epic stuff.
Yeah, this first one was really great. I was amazed to see this. So teachers from Fresno Unified out in California recently competed in a friendly esports match against a group of educators from the Kuro schools in Africa, where they created a public holiday celebration. There were two amazing builds. You can go online and actually watch it on Twitch. We included the link to the broadcast in our Wakelet resources that we'll share with you later. I just thought it was a really cool collaboration and just more great publicity and showing off the power of Minecraft. We wanted to throw a special shout out to an honorary US MIEE, Stephen Reed, for sharing this. I know Becky and Stephen know each other really well, and he does a great job of really championing the abilities for not just game-based learning, but Minecraft in particular as well.
Awesome stuff. Our second epic thing that we saw, in the past couple of weeks, it really kind of aligns to our mission here at Microsoft, which is to empower every person and organization on the planet to achieve more. And that really comes down to looking at when we say every person, we mean every person, and really trying to be more inclusive in our approaches. So last week, there was a pretty big Surface release announcement that took place. One of those things that we announced at the Surface announcement was the Surface Adaptive Kit, which is actually a flexible set of tactile tools to make devices more accessible. So it includes stickers, it includes labels for various ports onto the device, as well as even opening supports for someone who may have issues or struggles with motor disabilities. So we can't wait to see these kits in action. Really, again, going back to trying to empower everybody to have a great experience with their devices. So looking forward to seeing that. And wanted to give a shout out to Kieran Philhart, who was out there on social sharing about the adaptive kit.
Love it. And then our third one for this week, we want to thank our friend Aaron Holland, an MIE expert in North Carolina, for sharing about reading progress. I have to admit, there were about 30 or 35 of these posts that caught my eye. Everybody's really excited about reading progress. If you haven't seen it, it's a new addition to Teams assignments. There was some confusion about where to find it from some folks, but you find it inside of Teams assignments. And it really helps students with building reading fluency and their confidence around reading passages, especially great at the younger ages, but I think really has tremendous value throughout K-12 and even beyond for learners of all shapes and sizes and abilities. So we also want to point out it's available in 37 languages, which is pretty incredible. The impact, just another one of these tools along with Immersive Reader, the adaptive kit, all of these things, really showing how these tools are leading the way and Microsoft's leading the way with really making things accessible for all learners. So love these, some great epic things we've seen. We look forward to sharing more in the future. And if you guys see anything out there that you want us to share on the show, please feel free to reach out to Robin and I and let us know.
Absolutely. Well, without further ado, we should get the drum roll to, introduce our guests tonight. So we've got two highly sought after speakers in the United States, the amazing Becky Keene and Diana McGee. Let me go ahead and introduce Becky. So Becky is the Director of Operations at S2E3. She spent 15 years teaching, coaching, and managing programs for the Kent School District in the great state of Washington. She is a board member for the game-based learning nonprofit Digital Labs. And she's also a national board certified teacher in English language arts. Additionally, she's an SC certified educator. And one of my favorite things is she's also the co-author of the book Sail the Seven Seas with Microsoft Education. So it was one of my favorite books of 2020 to read last year. So if you haven't gotten a chance to get a peek at Becky's book, I encourage you all to do so. And Scott, I think you're going to introduce Diana.
Yeah, I will. Diana's a retired educator, and I love this. Typical of educators, we want to keep working. So she's returned to work part-time as the Director of People Personnel and Academic Support Advisor for the Model Laboratory Schools in Richmond, in Kentucky. She also works alongside Becky at I2E as a professional learning specialist. And I love this is my favorite part of the whole bio. Most notably says she remembers the days of Windows 3.1 and Microsoft Mail. We're not going to do any date checking on that. We're just going to leave it there and say Diana and Becky, to both of you, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. So fun to be here with you.
Yeah.
So we heard a little bit about your roles, and obviously we're talking about blended learning, and we'll get to the for you, by you segment that you guys did. But tell us a little bit more about what you're seeing in your roles and kind of the impact and some of the conversations around blended learning that you're hearing and that you're having as well.
Diana, want to start?
Sure. Well, one of the things that I was hoping to, the point that when we did our presentation with For You, By You, is that the blended learning concept is not really a new concept. We actually have been doing blended learning for years. And yes, that date check, you'll figure out how old I am if you actually date check. I've been around a long time in the schools, and blended learning is something that most teachers have done all along. The difference is now is that you're throwing in the technology piece, but the choice piece is super important. And I hope that people will realize that in the blended learning model, you're doing that. You're giving choice to students. And I think there's a lot of people out there already doing that.
One of the things that really strikes me is that, as teachers, in our hearts, we want to reach every kid. And I hear educators talk all the time about how, what they're doing doesn't necessarily work for everyone. And I think the blended learning model speaks to that. It helps teachers almost free up some of their mental energy, some of their organizational energy to help empower students who can go and do on their own, to help guide and support students who need that little bit of extra, to move learners forward in a variety of different ways that supports their different learning capacities. So I think the blended learning model is one of those things that, while it might take a little bit of extra to implement, we get that time back in hands-on learning next to the students who need us the most in the moment. And that's the thing I'm the most excited about.
Absolutely. I'm just thinking, it's the beginning to really realize personalized learning for our students and being able to meet them where they are, when they need you, when they don't need you, for those kids that need to be pushed forward and those kids that need, a second or a third repeat of something. But it doesn't mean we're all sitting in the same classroom at the same time, getting the same concept and doing the same, exact assignment. So really calling that out, I think is super critical here. So you guys both recently presented on the For You, By You series that Microsoft's been leading. Can you guys tell me and our audience here a little bit about those sessions? What were some of the highlights of that?
Well, sure. Yeah, the sessions are really fun. They're set up to be kind of quick, fast paced. Sometimes there's a celebrity involved. They've had Garth Brooks come out. There's lots of different people involved with those. And the team putting those together, the stores teams, really focuses on making sure that there are these bite-sized nuggets that educators can take and, be inspired, be motivated, get excited right away. And so our session, we were lucky enough to follow Mark Sparvel in our session, who of course talked about social emotional learning and, the ways that we can really focus in on what students need in their heart level. And then Diane and I got to focus on what students need in their head level. And so we had the opportunity to share some tools and also some stories from our own experiences, from educators we know who are doing some really neat things with blended learning, specifically with the Microsoft tool set.
Becky gave some great examples in that session about ways that teachers could use the Microsoft tools in the classroom to implement blended learning. It was a really fun session, and like she said, it was just quick and fast paced and very professionally done, and we really enjoyed it.
And they're all recorded and archived, so anyone who's interested can go back and watch any of the For You By You content, which is really cool.
We've got the link in our resources as well, so we'll share that out with everybody on social media. It has the link to all the events as well as upcoming events that you can register for as well. So we're happy to share those out. Becky, I wanted to come back to you first on this next one because you sort of hit on it in your previous answer, but just the idea of getting at the heart of why blended learning is such a powerful tool. You're talking about meeting with the students and freeing up time. Can you dig a little bit deeper and maybe talk about some of the things you've seen successful and how it may change learning and teaching moving forward?
Sure. So one example I can give from my own teaching experience, and that is what I would call e-discussions. So instead of having my students share out, an oral class discussion about a concept, I would first send them to a threaded discussion in something. Teams didn't exist then, but now I would use Microsoft Teams, of course. And that gives the students so many different opportunities to think through their answer, to edit their answer, to use Immersive Reader to read other people's answers, to use translation services, to focus on equal voices where every student can participate in a way that is thoughtful and deliberative. Randomly, I just post about this again from a Facebook memory, randomly drawing names of kids with sticks, right, is a really common practice. It's something I did my first year of teaching too. So, I'm not knocking that. It's something that I think a lot of us have done at one point, but we can change and evolve and realize that, really giving kids a chance to post about their learning, post about their thoughts in a way that gives them time to absorb their own opinion and others, and then bringing kids in for, maybe a wrap-up oral discussion is so much more powerful. And I used to have a sign on the door in my classroom that was like, "Shh, we're e-discussing," because my kids were involved in these, really engaging threaded conversations. And we had a lot of tours coming through our building as a showcase school. And they would be like, "Oh, they're just sitting working, independently in a corner, dead silent classroom." And I was like, no, they're actually engaged in these really rich conversations. They're just not doing it out loud, So I just think that's really powerful. And it gave me time as an educator to then go around and touch in with students and monitor the posts and check in with people and pull a small group aside and do some things that I wouldn't have had time to do if I was sitting up in front, with my megaphone. So I think it's just extremely powerful, and it's something that can happen in any environment, whether it's full face-to-face, synchronous, asynchronous, all these words we've learned to hate, hybrid. It doesn't matter. Those strategies still work.
Yeah, or even you mentioned, being able to look at these threaded discussions and having insight to that as a teacher. So you can, like, even if you have students in small groups and they're having these e-discussions in small groups, you can now monitor, see what they're talking about, the questions that they have, where, I'm thinking about the days of the classroom where I break my kids up in groups and they were having small group discussions. I can't hear every discussion that's happening at the same time. I can maybe on and hear a few minutes of one, a few minutes the other. But I think this provides so much more data and rich insights to our students' learning when you're able to, take some of these tools and leverage them in this digital way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. What the job that I had before I retired was I was a director of technology in a school district. And in that particular school district, the superintendent had the philosophy that even the top level administrators continued to teach. So I taught high school journalism first period in the morning and then went to my tech job. And if I were doing that again today, well, when I was teaching journalism, my whole premise was everyone has a story, and our job is to help those people tell their story. And what I wouldn't give to go back and be able to use Flipgrid in the classroom to help the students, help other students tell their story, because that was our goal. Was everyone has a story, and Flipgrid is an amazing tool. If I were back in the classroom today, that'd be a great tool to use for that.
So I was going to pose this question for you ladies. For what would you say to those educators who maybe, have gone back into an in-person learning environment today and basically said, I'm really, I just want to go back to doing things the way I did before because, there's a nostalgia to it, or, there's a belief that it worked better. What would you say to an educator who had that mindset today, and how would you encourage them to embrace some of the amazing pieces and lessons we've had due to virtual, hybrid, remote, high flex, all kind of model learnings that we've had in the past year?
Well, I think one of the things I would do is exactly what you said, help encourage them, find the parts that worked for them that were different in the past year and a half and did work, and bring that forward and encourage them and model with them how to make those things work. Because I agree, if we're going back to what it was prior to March 2020, we've missed the boat and doing the students a big disservice, because there are some things about the last year and a half that were great, that were really good, and we don't want to lose that. But it's all about building those relationships and encouraging. And I know Becky probably has some things to say about that, because she's really good at the coaching aspect.
I always have something to say. David, great quote. Hi, friends. Glad to see you. Something that I started saying when schools started physically reopening was, we're back to school, but we're not back to normal. And that's something that I will say again and again. And that's because we have learned and we have grown, and our communities have changed and their needs have changed. And so, as always, doing the same thing in a different environment is not going to earn us great results. So one of the pieces of advice that I give to any exhausted educator who has been on the battlefield, home in tears, I see your posts and it breaks my heart. And so I'm not going to come in and say, oh yeah, but you have to do all of this. Like that's not fair. But what is fair for your students is to say, try something that you loved last year. Focus on the one thing or the two things that you thought went amazing, and just do those for now. Because they do need some support in some normalcy. But we also need to know that there's a lot of things they can try differently. Yep. to happen. Sorry. Someone just came home from middle school track practice.
Yes.
So now we're wagging over there. But basically, it's really thinking about choosing those things that brought high value, that excited the teacher, that engaged the kids, that the teacher can choose to continue. Mm-hmm. And I am seeing that happen. I'm seeing teachers say, I don't want to do that again. But when we have a conversation like, oh, but you loved using Sway for your class newsletter, let's keep that up, right? Those things can help us kind of hold on to the good. And I find that once we've settled out a little, people are more willing to experiment again.
Yeah, I think too, it might even just come back to asking the questions to your learners and asking them, what is it about remote or hybrid learning that you experience as a student that you want to see continue? Mm-hmm. And you're not going to be able to do all the things, but I think hearing from our learners and helping them, guide what we should be doing for them, and following their passions and understanding their perspectives is also very powerful and can be, something to leverage. So I would encourage, teachers out there, if you haven't asked your students yet what they liked and what they didn't like too, do it.
And families, I'll just jump in with this. I have a neighbor friend who during school closures, the teachers started posting every direction for every assignment in their class site, like their class team. And this parent said to me, "This is helpful. Why weren't we doing this before?" Right? Because now they can see at home to help with homework instead of depending on their child to, kind of magically remember everything that they were told to do at school and write it on the special planner. And so things like that are, home communication that really bridge a lot of gaps for working families, people that, it's 9 p.m. and they're trying to help someone with homework. Those types of tools deserve to be held on to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I had one today too with a teacher who told me that she had kind of ditched Teams and kind of saw it as something she needed last year because of Teams meetings.
Right.
And her students told her, "Hey, why aren't you doing Teams assignments anymore? We love the reactions. We love getting to know that, see the ice cream cone or whatever when we turn things in." So that alone kind of opened her eyes to just one, silly thing, right? Really. But again, her listening and being open to that conversation with students has now kind of changed her perspective about how she might use Teams and other tools moving forward. So I love that Robin called that out. It's so true.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think it's like an inclusive behavior, both for our learners and for our families, right? Even I remember years back before Teams and things of that nature, but even when my daughter was in high school, I remember there was, a meeting that I had to go to. It was like, this is your one slot from the counselor's office. You had to meet this, in person on the campus for this meeting. And I remember I was out of town. I think I was in Detroit at the time. And I was like, well, I can't be at this required meeting if I'm in Detroit. And I remember back then having that conversation with the school, like, well, can't we just do, I think at the time it was Skype for Business call. I can do a link and we can do this virtually. Yeah. But, it's just really providing a more inclusive environment for our families, for our students, giving them, as you mentioned, Diana, agency for their voice, for the student who, historically has not wanted to speak out in the classroom because they're nervous, or maybe they have a speech impediment or whatever, they're just shy. It gives them a safe place without judgment to be able to interact with their peers. And I think it can strengthen the culture in the classroom dramatically when you don't have the same 5 popsicle sticks answering all the questions in the classroom.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is great stuff out there. So Scott, any other follow-up thoughts or questions for Becky or Diana here tonight before we?
I think just one quick one, if we can squeeze it in, because I'm curious about this, if you have like a 30-second answer. And that is, we've been talking a lot this season about student connection and, keeping in contact with students. So is there one little tip you would give teachers that with the impact of technology, how they can keep that connection with students and keep building relationships?
Well, I mean, I've said for my entire education career, #relationships matter, and you have to make that a priority. So find something that works for you and use it to make those connections with students. Becky, you want to finish the 30 seconds?
I would just, the more authentic, the better. Right. I think kids are really great at picking out a fake, and they want to know that you actually care, about their weekend or their issues or their, lives. And so for a lot of kids, we all know educators might be the safest person in their world who is an adult. And so, it just, or the most consistent or whatever. And so just being human and being a little vulnerable with your students and, helping them be a little vulnerable with you goes a really long way.
It's great. Appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for sharing tonight. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Absolutely.
Thanks
Before
for
we let
having
you ladies go.
I'm nervous. because
No.
like there's gonna be a lightning round.
Yep.
Are you ready
We're
for
not done
lightning?
yet.
All right, so here's how we're going to play it so that we can make sure we're not talking over each other, sometimes difficult in virtual spaces. I'm going to ask, I'm going to start with the first 3 questions. Scott's going to finish up the last 2, and then we'll just back and forth go off of this. So Becky, if you want to go first, I'll ask you the question. And Diana, you can answer that same question after Becky. Makes sense? All right, cool.
Okay.
All right, so Becky, what food can you not live without?
Tacos.
Perfect answer for today.
It's Tuesday, I know.
For me, it's chips, any kind, any flavor, any brand, just chips.
Salty snacks, yeah. I'm with you. All right, here we go. This next question. If you can be anywhere in the world right now, where would you be?
The Maldives. Let's just go big.
I would actually go to Brooklyn, New York, because my son lives there and he just moved to a new apartment and I haven't seen him since June and I haven't seen his new apartment. So I would just time travel to see him on National Sons Day, whatever that is.
Yeah.
We're just talking about that. When do these things come about?
I don't know.
I don't know.
All right, next quick question. Any new hobbies you picked up during quarantine time, Becky?
I am a dog owner again. So we got a Corona puppy and I walk him twice a day and play, and he is the most adorable giant 90-pounder. So yeah, dog owner again.
All right, and I think Diana must be going to get her new hobby.
Oh, I'm learning to quilt.
We're show and tell, yes. Awesome.
I'm learning to quilt. I joined a quilting club at my church, and this is called a log cabin quilt. And the log cabin quilts always start with the red in the center because that was a signal that it was a safe place. So I'm learning history and quilting.
Okay.
Super
I
cool.
I love that. That's
fun.
amazing.
Super cool.
All right, Becky, last series that you binge watched, and how long did it take you to get through it?
Oh no. Okay. I've never binge watched anything.
That's not a bad thing. Don't be ashamed.
Oh, I'm almost done with Ted Lasso season 2 though, and I'm doing one a night, which for me is like epic.
Yeah.
So,
Great, amazing show, by the way. How good is that show? So good.
it's so fabulous. It's
Yeah,
really
agreed.
good. Highly recommend.
7 Emmys, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, he's agreed with me.
That one's on my list. I haven't gotten to it yet, but my husband and I binge watched Yellowstone, and we are dying for the next season to come out. So it took us a while though to binge watch it.
Yep. I admire those people that can binge watch like 20 episodes in one weekend. I'm like, I can't find that
Oh,
time. But
we talk
God
about
bless
it someday.
All
You
right,
have to
last
have
one.
to get that many hours.
Yeah,
on
totally.
binge.
We'll get you out of here on this one. Becky, who inspires you the most in your life right now?
Oh my gosh. I should have had time. Oh no, Diana, are you ready first?
Sure. This is my patented answer, is my mother. Bless her heart. My mother was an educator. She taught 37 and a half years. She finished her career as a middle school principal, and those people have special crowns for the afterlife because being a middle school educator, but much less a principal, is a big feat. And she turned 80 this month, and so she's always been someone I've looked up to.
Okay, that helped me. I'm gonna go with my daughter. She is 11. She is a competitive gymnast. She is a very good student. She is a kind friend. And most importantly, she is a girl with a vision and a plan. And you just get out of her way once she decides something is going to happen, because there is nothing that will stop her. And I love her grit and perseverance to make things happen. So yeah, she's super encouraging to me. She'll, she has all these great little things when I was learning to run again after surgery. And she was like, Mom, you got this. Remember how you learned to walk again? Like she's great.
That's awesome.
I think I would go with that. Yeah.
Terrific. See,
Well,
that
thank
wasn't
you,
so bad,
ladies.
right?
That was easy.
Thank you so much for inviting us. This has been
Yes.
lovely.
It's fun. Thank you.
Thank
Super.
you.
I was going to say, just thank you for joining us and sharing your knowledge, expertise, and wisdom with everyone else. We're all better people because of folks like you that are willing to share and not keep all the goodness to yourself. So thank you so much, ladies. We appreciate having you. And of course, are extra delighted that you are back and a member of our MIE communities again this year.
Great.
Absolutely. Wouldn't miss it.
Super exciting.
Thanks again, ladies, and everybody who's watching, whether live or on demand. Don't forget to check out our episode resources. We have links to the For You By You, to Becky's website, to the book, Sail the Seven Seas. So make sure to check that out for sure. And once again, Diana and Becky, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thanks
you.
all.
Thanks.
See you soon.
Always so many great nuggets to uncover
Absolutely.
there, right? And I love how, we're talking about blended learning tonight, but, just as important, we're still talking about student agency and inclusion and equity and social emotional well-being of our students, our families, our educators, our school leaders. So, I feel like this is, all the pieces are seamlessly connecting to each other. And just
Agreed.
excited to see education shift.
Yeah. And the fact that I'm sure, like you, the more people you talk to, the more you realize that you're having these same conversations, right? It's almost like you're starting to see this big snowball kind of, gather steam and head downhill in a really good way. So I'm certainly excited to keep the conversations going with Becky and Diana and to keep that spreading across all of our network across the country and around the world.
Yeah. And I think there's, also something to be said too about this is not just happening in education. Our, the economy that we're living in today, our businesses that are running, the world essentially are also going through the same transformation. So these things are not unique just to education.
Right.
Business leaders are also having to think about these things. How do they provide, a remote workforce and enable people to have a more flexible workday? So these conversations are not just happening in education. I think this is where we're starting to really see the partnership between education and so many companies come together, and so that we're continuing to build a pipeline of highly educated students that are ready to go into this, digital economy workforce that we have today. So I think it's a reciprocal relationship and not unique conversations per se that someone else can't relate to.
Yeah, totally agree. Well, real quick, right here at the end, we did want to share just a few resources before we wrap up tonight. Just a few things about blended learning. We mentioned a couple of them already, but Robin, we'll kick it over to you to start with some of the great courses that are in the MEC right now.
Yep. So in the Microsoft Educator Center, if you go to education.microsoft.com, we have so many great resources and some specifically for blended learning that definitely are getting a proper highlight with 6 unique courses covering all grade levels. They include coursework for leadership as well as teachers as well, looking at blended PD strategies, blended teaching strategies. So you can just head over to education.microsoft.com. You can go select courses under the training drop-down menu at the top. And if you type in blended learning in the search bar, all those courses will appear. And of course, we will also share these links to these courses in our Wakelet that we'll give you a link to shortly.
And next up is blendedlearning.org, which is a online hub packed with just a ton of blended learning resources. It's curated by the Christensen Institute, which is a research organization dedicated to improving the world through disruptive innovation. I just love that, disruptive innovation. The blended learning universe combines over a decade of research in schools all across the US and around the world. And I especially love their interactive graphic for the 9 steps to build a blended learning program. It's a great place to start. You can check them out at blendedlearning.org.
And it's been said many times tonight in the conversation, but Microsoft Teams really is a learning experience platform for being able to bring in hybrid and blended learning into the classroom. So I think you said it best, Scott, when you were talking about the teacher who was like, oh yeah, I'm not planning on using Teams anymore because I'm not doing virtual meetings anymore. And then the students were like, well, wait, there's all these other things inside Teams. We can collaborate on files together in our OneDrive. We can share notebooks with each other and have class notebooks. We can use the assignments feature and get the cool, little sloth coming hanging down from the tree. I'm going to turn my assignment in. I can have conversations ongoing, like we talked about, these e-threaded conversations where students are now in a space where they can converse with each other and learn with each other, and the teachers can see that as well. So you're privy to what your students are understanding, or maybe the questions that they have that you need to help clear up for them. So really just providing this as a platform doesn't mean that you have to host your classes in meetings like in a virtual capacity anymore, but it's still a platform that can be leveraged for all these other array of opportunities for students to learn, and provide a space for them to share their voices and really honestly just demonstrate their understanding of information and knowledge to us.
Yep, absolutely. And last up tonight, we covered it in great detail with Becky and Diana tonight, but the For You, By You events, we've linked the website in our Wakelet resources, so you can find those on social media. But again, these events are wonderful. They help increase classroom engagement with speakers and topics selected for educators by educators, which we love, obviously, educators sharing with each other. Great information, including a couple of recent events, as we discussed, around blended learning. And you heard all the great things from Becky and Diana. Definitely encourage watching that, especially from Mark Sparville's session, hearing more from him on the impact of SEL and all the great things that can be done, not just with Teams and Microsoft tools, but the focus in general on the importance of SEL. So check those out. You can register for future events as well as see past events archived on the site.
Well, as always, it's been great to be with you guys here tonight. We will be back online in a couple more weeks for our next episode. So looking forward to having many of you join us. As Scott stated earlier, if any of you have ideas or suggestions or, epic stuff that you want us to highlight on the show, or if you too know of a great guest that wants to be on the show moving forward, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. As always, you guys can connect with Scott and I across many social different handles. They're here for you all if you need to reach out, as well as you can watch any of these episodes or previous episodes on demand on the YouTube channel.
Robin, great to be with you again. Always great stuff and great conversations. Certainly appreciate having Becky and Diana here tonight, and looking forward to keeping these conversations going in the future.
Absolutely. Well, enjoy your time in the rest of the week in New Mexico, Scott, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Will do. Sounds great. Have a great night, Robin. Take care, everybody.
Bye, guys.